All right, Bill, you're live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the San Francisco Playhouse. It's a thrill to have you all here at our empathy gym. We think of our theater as our community's empathy gym where we come to practice compassion, and everything we do is built around that concept. We're really thrilled to be actually in the business of television because we have two weekly television series. On Thursdays, we have our fireside chats with many of America's great playwrights, and we're actually going to be moving into some of America's greatest directors and other theater personae. And then Monday night, we have the wonderful and much appreciated Zoom series. We call it Zoomlets. And I suppose that Zoom will come after me for copyright infringement at some point, but so far, so good. It's a very special and really wonderful evening. We pick a 15-minute play, 10, 15-minute play, but they are basically director-driven. So I do what the artistic director generally does throughout the season is I pick the play and then I pick the director. But once that choice of director has been made, then it's really up to the director. The director will cast the play, the director will pick the designers, the director will create a concept around which the production will be built. And I kind of just basically sit back and hopefully watch it all happen. So tonight, we're going to feature a director. He's actually also an actor and a producer as well, who was actually the very first actor on our stage in our very, very first production of It Had to Be You. And of course, Louis is directed with us. I'd like to introduce to you the incomparable Louis Parnell to direct Lynn Kaufman's A Broken String.
Good evening.
Hey, Louis.
Hey.
Lynn, good to see you guys.
Hi. Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Welcome to the Zoomlet series. We're really glad to have you with us, Lynn. We don't always get playwrights. Some of them are on, New York time or London time, but it's good. It's good to have you here.
Now I'm on your time.
Sure.
It's our time.
That Magic Theater poster in back of you is that for the couch?
I don't even know. I think it may. Well, I have 4 shows at the Magic.
Yeah, I know.
And it could very well be. It could very well be for the couch, or it could be for Roshi, or it could be for the other 2. But yeah, that was my start in theater.
Well, the couch was the very first play of yours that I saw, and I was just completely blown away.
Oh, thank you. You were an actor in those days.
I was, and I remember Jack Shearer.
Yes.
In that, and Kenna Hunt.
Yes.
Who else was in that production?
Who played Freud? Jerry
Lynn Cohn?
No, a man.
No.
A man, Freud. Oh, I've forgotten.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this: 3 Girls did a revival of the Count.
Right.
Yeah, right. A few years ago, and with a completely different cast. But we brought back the first cast, and we have pictures of everybody.
Oh, of everybody hanging out.
Yeah. So it won the Glick. It was my first play, and it won the Glickman for the best play in the Bay Area. So I thought, piece of cake. There's nothing to this.
I'm just going to bust these out year after year.
Exactly.
And who was the director of the 3
that was Simon
theater production?
Simon Levy. Do you remember?
Directed the first one. Right.
He did the first, and this one was Amy Glazer. Oh, because Louis was Freud.
And Courtney, who's in our show tonight, she was Mrs. Jung.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah.
So it's a tight little community, and we're all connected, and we all go round and round.
Right.
So, Louis, tell us about your feelings about the play, and maybe Lynn, you can tell us something about what brought the play to be.
Sure. Well, I really when I read the piece, I really loved it, and I mean my vision of kind of directing any play, but in particular, A Broken String, is really to support the vision of the playwright. And The Broken String, it's a lovely piece. I mean, it's very touching and poignant. It's about friendship, relationships, loss, regret, missed opportunities. It focuses on two close friends who are now estranged, but a final visit because one of them is dying of cancer. And there is a little unexpected ending, of which I'm not going to give you any spoilers yet because you're about to hear the play. But what I really liked about the play is that the story is very simple and straightforward. And yet there's so many things that are left unsaid that the awkward moment between the lines in this piece is so significant. I mean, the character, as I said, the objectives that both actors have to play are very, very important in a piece like this, as is the subtext, because a lot of directors don't necessarily emphasize subtext. I guess I think that's the actor's job, but being an actor, I do. And I feel, I mean, like in this piece, once you hear it, the beats and the objectives are so important. They almost need to be exaggerated to express the awkwardness of the situation. It's almost kind of like, when I read it, I felt like the emotion of the piece was underneath the lines rather than in them. And I mean, an analogy that almost would come to mind to make most of your audience react to this piece would be like, the adult child being unable to say, I love you and goodbye to a dying parent if there was any conflict in that relationship. And the piece is very bittersweet and sentimental. And I think that that's probably its strength. That's probably why I love it. That's probably why you picked me to do it, because you know how I feel about sentimental things. And I think it's a perfect piece for the San Francisco Playhouse, and especially its empathy, Jim, because if you don't empathize with these characters, you either have a heart of stone or else you're just unsentimental.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of my piece. And I've worked with Lynn before, as she pointed out. I mean, I played Sigmund Freud of the Couch and loved doing that. And I've also directed, I think, one or two of your other readings elsewhere.
Yes.
And I love working with Lynn. I love her writing. And Lynn, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, back to you. It's lovely to work with you and to work with a director who is not afraid of sentiment, who's not afraid, doesn't pull back from tears. They don't have to be shed, but they have to be felt. What I would say about the play is I wrote it a couple of years ago, but it seems very important to me right now. We're having, so many people are dying, and many people are dying alone. And that last moment, I've always been interested in, I guess, finality. If I've been interested in consciousness and what happens, and for me, I think it's sort of age appropriate where I am in life, in my life journey, is close friends are getting very sick, and some of them, are dying. And I feel that loss, and yet deep gratitude, for the time that we were together. And so it feels as if we never have enough time to say to anyone we love how much we love them. And so this is such a short play because I don't feel we have enough time, and these two don't have enough time either. And I guess I'm thinking of Joseph Campbell, who was my great mentor. He said it's the very fact that life is ephemeral, that we are not immortal, that it's a short time we're here, that it's so poignant. And we don't realize it most of the time. We never know if the last time we see someone, we say goodbye, that's going to be the last goodbye. And I guess the only other thing I want to say is it seems such a shame to me when people don't, when they hold grudges, when they don't connect and heal what could be, a division and the time we see what really matters is those cataclysmic moments, birth and death. And then we see what counts. We see that connection. So yeah, that's a broken string. And it is very autobiographical.
Mhm. Shall anything else, or shall I introduce the actors?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, again, as I mentioned before, the play is about two women who are approximately in their 50s, and one of them is dying. And there's Margot and Anne. Obviously, they're both upscale women. Margot is the patient who's dying, and she's going to be played by Courtney Walsh. Courtney, are you there? There's Courtney. Courtney and I have worked a number of times. Actually, Courtney and I met doing Lynn's play, The Couch. That's where we first met. And as I said, she played Emma Jung and I played Sigmund Freud. But we've since done, gosh, we've done a lot of things since then. Courtney's almost become my go-to actress. And so I love working with Courtney. And then we have the other character is Anne, who's being played by Kathleen Ridley. Kathleen, are you there? Anyway, Kathleen is, we worked together a lot. We spent, when in the early days of the Playhouse, Kathleen and I spent an entire summer, like 14 weeks with Bill doing Men of La Mancha. Bill was Don Quixote and Kathleen was Aldonza and I was Sancho. And we spent, so that's really probably where we met and spent a lot of time together. And we've done lots of playground stuff together, I know. Yeah. So anyway, and these actresses are perfect for the roles. So, when I read the piece, it was like, they just came to me like that. I didn't really have to think a whole lot about casting. Again, yeah, as Lynn said, Courtney has, I don't know if it was because of the piece that Lynn wrote, the Sontag piece, but for some reason I just thought Courtney is like, is so thin and and it was Mother Lear. Mother Lear is obviously what made me think she's perfect for this. She looks like somebody who's, who could be dying and that you're going to feel totally, really your heart's going to go out, like for her, even if she can be a little off-putting, which this character I asked her to be in the beginning. And Kathleen is just so full of heart that's why I thought she'd be perfect as Anne. Although Anne is carrying a lot of guilt, as we're going to see in this piece. So I'm thinking that without much further ado, we should maybe just do the piece. What do you think?
Sure.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read the stage directions for the first time through, and then after that, we'll stop and talk a little, and maybe I'll give notes. And for now, I'll turn myself off, and so you can just hear me talk before you start. Okay, A Broken String by Lynn Kaufman. The time is the present, and it takes place in a San Francisco apartment. Lights come up on Margot, who sits in a deeply upholstered armchair, feet resting on a footstool, a blanket on her lap. She is sitting very still, staring into space, listening to classical harp music as it plays on a stereo system. There is another chair and an end table. Anne enters quietly, hesitantly, stands there for a moment until Margot notices her.
Well, come in, for God's sake. What are you waiting for? An engraved invitation?
I didn't want to startle you.
Nothing startles me anymore.
That's good.
I guess. We'll take a load off.
Gestures toward the other chair.
Closer. Don't worry, you won't catch it. You look good.
Just came from Antoine.
Yeah. You still go to that guy?
He owns the salon now.
I look like shit, don't I?
You could use a touch-up.
I wasn't talking about my hair.
You look like shit. You
Thank
look
you.
thin.
Most people tell me I look like I always did. If that's how I looked, I would have shot myself.
You look thin.
Go figure. I've been trying to lose these 15 pounds all my life, and now,
Are you in pain?
yeah, it comes with the territory.
It's a lousy disease.
You know any good ones?
Curable ones.
Oh, that leaves me out.
Oh, sorry, that was dumb.
What?
What I just said.
Oh, Annie, there's nothing smart you can say. If anyone's supposed to say something smart, it's me. If not the meaning of life, then at least some major insight. Or some gallows humor, for God's sake. But all I have is chemo brain.
They sit in silence. Margot gestures to the window.
Hey, did you see my lilacs?
Oh, no. Oh, pretty. They're my favorite flowers.
I know. That's why I planted them after the last time we saw each other.
5 years ago?
Try.
It can't have been that long.
This is my fourth attempt. The first bush I drowned in standing water, and then the next one I dug the roots too deep, and then the third time I froze them in the shade. But I finally figured it out. Just a year for 2 lousy weeks of flowers.
That's a lot of waiting.
But the fragrance. Some things are worth the effort.
Mark.
You know, no, never mind. Never mind.
No, let me say.
It doesn't matter.
I need to say this, please. Please, just close your eyes and listen, okay? Margot Elliott, you were my best friend. I was so happy to meet you that day at Julius Kahn Playground. The boys even shared their toys. And then you suggested a play date, and I jumped at it. I was so lonely and so grateful and so intimidated. Your big house in Pacific Heights, you were a concert harpist with the symphony, and you had a maid, and you spoke French, and you were so beautiful.
No, you were the beautiful one. Size 8.
And your perfect skin. I had zits.
And the way you told the boys stories in the car.
And you were always willing to drive.
All those educational trips with the boys bored Steph.
And that time to the cheese factory, the smell was so bad. We would go
And now they've got kids of their own.
in. Davy has 2.
And Paul has 1.
I didn't know.
A baby girl, 6 months old.
So he's okay?
Yeah, he's doing all right. As long as he stays on his meds, he's fine.
Margot, I tried. I really did.
I'm sure you did.
There was just so much stress at the time. Everyone was fighting. Sue wanted a priest. I wanted a rabbi. Davey was anti-religious.
And my schizo son was the last straw.
I pleaded with Davey for weeks. He wouldn't budge.
What do you mean? You were his mother.
Your son listened to you. Mine didn't. I missed you so much that day.
I got your note.
But things were never the same after.
Paul was hurt. It was hard to explain to him why we were invited and he wasn't.
So we stopped sharing holidays and birthdays and
you stopped coming to my concerts.
And it took this.
Margot rises slowly, shakily, is steadied by Anne. They stand gazing at each other with deep affection.
I thought a lot about you.
Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time I passed the playground.
Me too.
We were so close. It shouldn't have happened.
There were other things too, things I did.
None of them mattered. Not now. I love you.
Yes. Me too.
Margot exits in a smooth, gliding walk. Then at the edge of the stage, she pauses to listen to Anne's last speech. Anne watches her go off and then to the audience.
That never happened, you know. I read Margot's obituary in the Chronicle. That's how I found out. Over my morning coffee, right after I had finished the comics. It was a long article. I discovered things about her I hadn't known, things we'd never talked about, like why she wanted to learn the harp. There was so much I wanted to learn, so much I wanted to know, so much I wanted to ask and tell. I always thought that someday I'd see her on the street or I'd pick up the phone and it would be easy again, that we'd find the words. You know why she wanted to study the harp? You think it would be a famous soloist or a brilliant teacher, but it was Harpo. Harpo Marx. She saw him play the harp in a movie called Monkey Business.
I liked that he was silent, that he let the music speak.
Sound of harp music, end of play. That was great. That was really wonderful.
Thank you. It's sad.
I know, and I have some notes that I'd want to give you before we do it the second time, but I want to talk about it first. I mean, did you have any questions for Lynn, or did you? I mean, to me, again, it's very pretty simple and straightforward, but I don't, it's a very sad piece.
Yeah, I thought you were great. Very, very moved. Just, it's so Chekhovian, in that missed moment, but somehow that's more powerful than having it, because it's deeply wanted. And I think that Margot wanted it too. It just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we see it happen. So to me, it's more poignant and truthful than really sad. But tell me how you two feel. Were you sad?
Well, I would say it's always more interesting to play trying not to do something, like not give forgiveness, not let her get to me,
Yeah.
not go there. And then when you do, it's more powerful somehow. It feels that way, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, and for me, it's important not. I noticed it in myself as I was going through it this time. It's important for Anne not to beg, because I think that there's still a pride that she should retain in this, and still some ownership that I believe she thinks Margot has in the splitting of this relationship. So I think that fighting against the going, please, please, please forgive me, I was so bad and I love you so much, to resist that gives us something to kind of push against in here, I think.
Well, I agree with you, but I also, before you came online and I was talking to Courtney, I was talking about objectives. And what's really tricky about this piece is, yes, your objective is that you want her forgiveness and absolution. For Margot, it's interesting because for her, one of her objectives is to not give it to you because, but the thing is that when we find out at the end of the piece that she's essentially, I mean, this whole scene is really a figment of your imagination. There's a lot of guilt that you're carrying. And so the more angry that she is and the more withholding she is, has to do with what you're projecting upon her because, like I said, you're the one who's telling the story and this scene did not really take place. So I don't know. I mean, I agree with you about the not begging, but I'm thinking that maybe this next time through, you should try to be not begging, but wanting it and searching for it even more. And seeing the conflict of you really trying to get her to forgive you and really watching Courtney withhold it from you, making you work harder. I think that that's something I'd like to try, if that's okay.
Oh, that's why I love you, Louis Parnell. Yeah.
I have some other notes. I mean, Courtney, I love what you're doing. I would say that in the beginning, I think you've got, like more hills and valleys to go through. I mean, because in the beginning, I think you should be very brittle. I mean, you should be very standoffish with her. But then there's a certain point in the script, and I'll go page by page. I mean, as I get to the point where, I think where you relax a little bit and it becomes almost like old times where the two of you do just become chatty. And then of course that chattiness breaks because the subject of the wedding and the schizophrenic son comes up. And, and so basically, Kathleen, I think that the key adjustment for you throughout this needs to be awkward. I mean, you need to be taking almost all of your cues off of Courtney. Whatever the harder Courtney is being on you, I think it's going to make you work harder to try to get her to for the forgiveness. Because again, this is you. This is all you. And I think, a lot of this, I mean, whether she's being angry or withholding or whatever she's being, you're projecting this upon her because it's you telling the story. And it's how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say that I love the shared laughter. That moment, it felt so genuine, and we saw who they were together. That they're on the same wavelength, and the fact that Margot can laugh is, even if it's in Anne's mind, is wonderful. It's that memory of real friendship, women's friendship.
And there's something about friends that you make when your kids are little together.
Absolutely.
That's so special.
Absolutely. Because you don't get any time away from them. You're catching those moments because you're both watching the kids all the time. And then it's just these fragments where you can be grown-ups again, and exactly. I think it's really important that that's how they met.
Now, some of these notes, I don't know if you're going to be able to remember them because obviously we're not having, I mean, this is the first read through. Obviously, I'd be giving notes and you'd be writing them down in your script. So right now, we're not going to be able to do that. Hopefully, you'll remember some of these. On this segment where you're talking about the guy from the salon, and when Margot says, "I look like shit, don't I?" and says, "You could use a touch up." Margot says, "I didn't mean my hair." I think that it says that there's a beat written in there which you took, but in that beat, I think that time that you should look at her and take as long as you want with the beat there, because you need to ponder whether you're going to answer her honestly or not, because she does look like shit to you. And like, do I tell her she looks like shit or not? And of course, it's a sign of friendship that you do tell her that. And when Anne says you look thin, I think, kind of be apologetic on that, because you realize what she's going through. And, I mean, it's, when you're watching people losing their hair and going thin and all of that, it's, how painful that is, because we've all known people who have been sick. Some of us have survived and some haven't. Mm-hmm. I think, Margot, when you do your speech, "Oh, Annie, there's nothing you can say," if anyone was supposed to say, I think that's where you can start to loosen up there a little bit. I think that she should be brittle and off-putting up until then, but at that point, I think she's worked her magic a little bit, or at least enough to put some chinks in your armor.
Okay.
And the whole thing about the metaphor with the lilacs is really important, because it's like, I mean, you've been growing them for all these years, and it's been her favorite flower, and it's like a sign of renewal, and maybe it's potentially a metaphor for re-engaging the friendship, which leads you into, the next beat is when the two of you do start to get to be like where it's old times, where, after you talk about the lilacs, I think is where you start, is where you start being friendly again with each other.
So more of an offer, more of a communicating that I miss her with that.
Yes,
okay.
I think so. Because like I said, I love watching you being really off-putting in the, like being resistant in the beginning. But at one point, we want to see the Margot that she loves. And Anne, Kathleen, when you do the speech about "I need to say this, please, just close your eyes and listen," I think that all of the awkward pauses and beats up until then have been great, but I think you could probably pick up the pace a little bit in that one. You were putting beats in there that don't necessarily need to be there. But I think the beats and pauses are before, and I don't know exactly what to say, but here it's like you're almost like, no, I have to say this. It's all the wonderful things I remember. I'm not saying rush it, but just don't do it as with as many pauses. And then, of course, I have a note here that it was great. I mean, like obviously the next whole page of dialogue was, that was where it was like old times, you were connecting, you had the memories, you laughed. That part was magic. It was really wonderful. And when Mara says, as long as he stays on his meds, he's fine. There's not a beat written in there, but I think you should take a big beat, because that's where it changes. And it goes, Margot, you're confessing, that you blew it. I tried, I really did. Okay. So like I said, just put in a beat and be really apologetic there. Okay. If you can remember. We're almost done. But again, so once you're talking about that, it's, once you're talking about you really mean your mother, your son listened to you, then again, it gets very awkward, because now you're back on quicksand. It's like you've had your moments of connection, but now this is the part where you come apart a little bit again before you come back together. And I think, it's like all of it was really wonderful. The one line that I love, and it's funny that I had this conversation with Lynn, Margot, your line, there are other things I did. Mm. It's like, it's just for you. You need to know what it was that you did, because you're not sharing that with us. But it's like, it makes you a little bit complicit too. in this thing. But then also, I thought it was interesting when I spoke with Lynn, because I said to Lynn, several weeks ago, I said, well, Lynn, I said, what were the things that she did? And Lynn was like, what line are you talking about? And apparently this is in an earlier thing that in a later version, Lynn took that line out. And I said, no, you have to put it back in. And Anne, your last monologue, I don't know. I mean, like, I know you want to fight the emotion, but man, if you want to go for it, I think this time just try it. I mean, just take your time with that piece. And if it doesn't take you into an emotional place, that's fine. But I would say go for it. This is a rehearsal. Let's see how you feel.
Okay.
I had a thought about one line that I just saw it differently this time, looking at it. When Anne's saying we stopped sharing holidays and birthdays, and the line, you stopped coming to my concerts, rather than an accusation, I'd like to make that more of a, that really hurt me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Sure.
absolutely. And, you didn't come to the wedding,
Yeah.
because your son wasn't invited. You could have come,
Yeah.
you didn't.
Yeah.
That you and your husband and what other kids there were. The only thing I was thinking was that very last line is important that you have, Margot, about I liked him because what, he was silent, something that,
He let the music speak. And actually, Mark, just from Lynn, I do have music, and I'm going to play it this time. I didn't want to do it the first time because, so, I mean, that's a note for you, Courtney. It's like, rather than starting the music after you say your line, it's like, I'm going to have the music come in at the end of Kathleen's monologue at the end.
Okay.
And we're going to listen to just a little bit of the music, and you're going to be
Okay.
off camera when you say your last line. And
Okay.
it's really there for Kathleen
Right.
because Anne's memory or imagination.
and words, they never spoke those words. They never spoke those words. And yet the feeling is there. And I think that's kind of what it's saying. Some things, the phrase, some things lie too deep for words. That and that's that music. Yeah. Beautiful work.
Yes.
All three of you.
Okay, so let's do it. As I said, this time, Kathleen, are you able to walk in or not?
Am I able to walk in?
Yeah, I mean, like if you started off camera so that we just see Courtney I won't necessarily, just give it like a 5 count, whatever, just so we're seeing Courtney looking very.
Sure.
Are you going to have the music playing in the beginning too?
I can if you want. I'll do a different piece. How's that? Because I did have 2 pieces to play with. And I
Okay.
can do that. Sure.
Maybe then that can be my cue to notice her when the music stops.
Well, that depends because I'm gonna have to stop the music. So you want me to stop it so when I stop
Yeah,
it?
so when you stop it, I'll notice her and tell her to come in.
Sounds good. And then of course you'll take your earpiece out and exit at the end of her monologue. Okay.
And I'll come from here?
Yeah, it's like just be off. I mean, because right now I can see you, but when you come in, I mean, like, let me see you come in. So if you may have to lean in on the chair so that we see you before you sit down.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably fine where you are. I mean, you're sort of off camera, but we'll know that you're a little wary. Okay.
And you want me to exit before her final monologue, right? Where she exits in the script?
Yes.
Okay, right.
Because it's totally camera. And if you can, now the way on my camera, I mean, what I'm looking at is you would need to look that way to see. Yes, you would need to look that way to see Kathleen, and Kathleen would need to look the other way. It may not work because of what we discussed before, but just know that when you are talking to her, try to look that way. And I'll say this for the audience in general. I wanted the 2 actresses to be able to look towards each other, but I was informed that technologically they may not work because for some of your computers, they'll be looking the opposite direction. So that's not going to work, but we're going to try to go for that a little. Okay.
Are we both going to turn our cameras off before this because the order of who comes on sort of determines which direction? You look in?
Oh,
Oh,
no, your camera can be on because you're going to be coming in, and when she leaves, we're seeing an empty room. So
And
you don't
this
have to
is the
turn
way
anything off.
and you
No,
want this,
you the other way. You're
me
looking
the
that
other way.
Yeah. At least for my configuration.
oh, really?
What do you
Because
see on your cameras?
for me, I have to look this way to see her.
Yeah, well, that's
And
the
she's
way
looking away from me now.
she is.
Uh-huh.
Oh dear. All right. Well, then you know what? Just don't look into the camera. Just
Yeah.
try to cheat looking at somewhere out here, but without looking directly into the camera. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, you're off camera, Kathleen?
I'm going off camera and I'm looking at Courtney that way.
Well, you can, yeah, but like I said, just cheat because we don't know how it's going to work. But yes. Okay, ready?
Sure.
Well, come in for God's sake. What are you waiting for? An engraved invitation?
I didn't want to startle you.
Nothing startles me anymore.
That's good.
I guess. We'll take a load off. Closer. Don't worry, you won't catch it. You look good.
I just came from Antoine.
You're still going to that guy?
He owns the salon now.
I look like shit, don't I?
Oh, you could use a touch-up.
No, I'm not talking about my hair.
You look like shit.
Thank you. Most people tell me I look just the same. If I thought I looked like that, I would have shot myself.
You look thin.
Go figure. I spent the last 15 years, all my life, trying to get rid of these 15 pounds, and
Are you in pain?
yeah. Yeah, it comes with the territory.
It's a lousy disease.
Know any good ones?
Curable ones.
That leaves me out.
Sorry, that was dumb.
What?
What I just said.
Oh, Annie, there's nothing smart you can say. If anyone should be saying something smart, it's me. If not the meaning of life, then at least some major insight. A little gallows humor. God's sake. All I have is chemo brain. Did you see my lilacs?
Oh no. Huh. Oh, pretty. They're my favorite flower.
I know. That's why I planted them. After we saw each other for the last time.
5 years ago.
Try 8.
It can't have been that long.
This is my 4th attempt. the first bush I drowned in standing water, and then the second one I dug the roots too deep, and the third time I let them freeze in the shade. But I finally got it right. But you still have to wait all year for just a lousy couple of weeks of flowers.
It's a lot of waiting.
But the fragrance. Some things are worth the effort.
Mar, listen.
No, never mind. Never mind.
No, let me say this.
No, it doesn't matter.
I need to say this, please. Please, just close your eyes and listen, okay? Margot Elliott, you were my best friend. I was so happy to meet you that day at Julius Kahn Playground. The boys even shared their toys. And then you suggested a play date, and I jumped at it. I was so lonely and so grateful and so intimidated. Your big house on Pacific Heights, you were a concert harpist with the symphony. And you had a maid, and you spoke French, and you were so beautiful.
No, you were beautiful. Size 8.
And your perfect skin, I had zits.
The way you would tell the boys stories in the car.
And you were always willing to drive.
Yeah, all those educational trips with the boys board stuff.
And that time at the cheese factory that smelled so bad I wouldn't even go in.
Oh my god. And now they have kids of their own.
Davy has too.
And Paul has one.
I didn't know.
Yeah, a baby girl. 6 months old.
So he's okay.
Yeah, he's doing all right. He's fine as long as he takes his meds.
Margot, I tried. I
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
tried.
I'm sure you did.
There was just so much stress at the time. Everyone was fighting. Sue wanted a priest. I wanted a rabbi. Davy was anti-religious.
And my schizo son was the last straw.
I pleaded with Davy for weeks. He wouldn't budge.
What do you mean? You were his mother.
Your son listened to you. Mine didn't. I missed you so much that day.
I got your note.
But things were never the same after.
Paul was hurt. It was hard to explain to him why we were invited and he wasn't.
So we stopped sharing holidays and birthdays. And
Did you stop coming to my concerts?
it took this.
I thought about you a lot.
Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time I passed that playground.
Me too.
We were so close. It shouldn't have happened.
There were things, other things I did.
None of them mattered. Not now. I love you.
Yes. Me too.
That never happened, you know. I read Margot's obituary in the Chronicle. That's how I found out. Over my morning coffee, right after I'd finished the comics. It was a long article. I discovered things about her I hadn't known, things we'd never talked about, like why she wanted to learn the harp. There was so much I wanted to know, so much I wanted to ask and tell. I always thought that someday I'd see her on the street or I'd pick up the phone and it would be easy again, that we'd find the words. You know why she wanted to study the harp? You'd think it would be a famous soloist or a brilliant teacher, but it was Harpo. Harpo Marx. She saw him play the harp in a movie. A movie called Monkey Business.
I liked that he was silent, that he let the music speak.
Beautiful. That was wonderful. You were
Thank
both
you.
great. Kathleen, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the cheese factory, Kathleen.
I
Let's
know.
do it again. Forget those stupid boys.
That's a really, really stinky cheese factory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me crying.
Ah,
What you think, Lynn?
that was lovely. Yeah, there's so many moments, you know, it is like a piece of music, the way you did it. And it was, you can play it, like pick any moment to connect and, you know, to disconnect. And it was, yeah, I mean, it makes it very fresh. And very, very fresh. The only thing I wondered is, should we be seeing Margot at the last line?
Well, on stage, you would be,
You would be seeing her.
I would think. I mean, your stage direction of her going off almost to the edge of the stage, you know, I
Right.
mean, so yes, you would be
We
seeing.
would be seeing, we would be seeing that, but yeah, that creating the fact of her, yeah, being a ghost, but that
Yeah,
would be
I mean,
her
she would
last
be a
line.
ghost if she was on stage, and if it was a film,
Absolutely.
it'd make it very, very, you know, like supernatural.
No, I think the thing is that I feel a whole decades of friendship there, you know, just
Mhm.
between the two of you, the way you listen to each other and talk. So I think most women, I don't know, here you've got two guys here. Does this, I think most women will get this.
No, but that's why, as I said earlier when I introduced the piece, that I think there's so much that is expressed in the awkward silences. Like I said, that speaks volumes. I thought watching it. I mean, watching the two, I mean, Courtney and Kathleen, your faces were just wonderful. I said the moment, those moments needed to be filled with life and emotion, and they were.
Oh, yeah.
In some ways, I find that it's more difficult when somebody's talking about something beautiful, like when she's talking about when we first met. It's like when somebody's nice to you when you're having a really hard time. That's when I cry. You know? Yeah.
That was terrific work, everybody. Lynn, I actually enjoyed that, at least in the Zoom format, that she was gone.
Really? Okay.
And her
And
voice
you just hear her voice.
I could hear her voice because her voice is coming from beyond life.
Yeah.
And that actually, I thought, at least in this particular format, it played. You know, something I like to do to sort of wrap wrap these up is to ask each person, because let's assume this is a first read and we're going to have a whole rehearsal process. We're going to learn our lines. We're going to do blocking and props and costumes and, you know, lilacs, you know, we're going to have the whole thing. Beautiful cello music or harp music. What would you work? I'm going to ask you, each of you, what would be the next thing you would undertake? How to deepen the character, how to switch something up. Well, what would, so we'll start with the actors. Courtney, Kathleen, either one. What did you feel like what you'd want to work on?
I was interested in exploring with making choices and trying different ways about which lines were attacks and which lines were offers, because so many of them could be either.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes the response of the other person, and it is that awkwardness of, this is an offer, but this is an attack. You know, I think the choices around those would be interesting to explore.
How you play that detachment versus a pointed nasty remark, right?
Mm. And when are you offering to let her in again? When are you extending yourself a little bit, taking that risk?
Kathleen?
For me, because she was a little hard and a little harsh at the beginning, even though I know that Anne has a lot of guilt, I would just be curious about how much Anne is willing to take. You know what I mean? It's like, how much would she take if we had a rehearsal where we're just like, Courtney, freaking go for it, nail her on every one of these things. It's like, just wondering what kind of person Anne is and how much of this she will carry and take until she doesn't want to take anymore. And another thing that I would consider is, I'm sure that Anne has relived this over and over and over in her life, is just the perspective of a person with a mental health diagnosis and what was enough in that to keep them from allowing him to come to the wedding.
Right.
Like, was there an inciting event? Was there he's way unpredictable and he's off his meds, or he's, you know, just kind of just what my perception of him is that would make me feel like I had to make that choice for my own family's well-being. I
think a really brilliant comment, because that the play kind of hinges on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a way. Lynn?
That's a great suggestion.
What would you be whispering in Louis' ear about what he should work on next?
No, I'm just responding to Kathleen. I love that. I love it needs just a bit more as to what they were afraid of. You know, that he would behave badly, that he would wreck the wedding, you know. So I always approach it from the script point of view. I think Louis is wonderful, you know. I just think he cares about the characters, and if he had more time, if they had more time.
We lost you.
Yeah.
Is anybody else hearing Lynn?
Yeah, I'm hearing her.
Yeah.
Oh,
She got a little.
did I get too quiet?
No, just for a little warbly for a second.
Oh.
So Louis, what would be your next note? What would be the thing you would?
Well, a combination of things. I mean, I would definitely, I mean, with both Courtney and Kathleen were saying, I would definitely do that, because I would, you know, if we had hours to work on this piece, break it down, you know, try all the different, you know, I mean, like, explore everything, because I love that kind of exploration. That's what I love to do in rehearsal. So, I mean, we would certainly be going all out for both characters, doing all of the background analysis, what you know, what the cases are, what, I mean, that definitely I would do in rehearsal. And then, of course, as the director, I'd be thinking, well, you know, I mean, do I go with the sentimentality of the piece, or do I fight it? I mean, like, the set should obviously be beautiful. The lilac should be in full bloom. You know, I mean, we should have the scent of lilacs wafting into the theater, you know. I mean, I think it's a beautiful piece. And like I said, I would just love I mean, I love to move an audience, and a piece like this, like I said, I don't see how it can't.
You know, I had this observation because I've seen this many times in my life, is the people who are sick are often more together than the people
Hmm.
who are not sick. And it's the penitent who's come to beg forgiveness that is troubled, more troubled than the woman who's dying, which is the irony of life, you know. And I noticed, Lynn, I noticed this time through how many funny lines Courtney has, or that character has. And I wondered what it'd be like to let her have more fun. You know, to not, you know, she knows why this woman's here. And she's
Hmm.
maybe, you know, and she
Yeah.
loves her and wants to make up with her, but she's maybe playing a little bit because she's so witty, right? There's just every remark is a kind of a witty rejoinder. And I thought, I wonder if we could, I wonder, Louis, if we could keep the audience from knowing. Now, we told this audience that it was about a dying person, but if we
Yes.
hadn't,
Is-
how long would it take them? How long would it take them to realize
Yes.
that because of her wit and her charm, you know, that there's something wrong? You know, that would be my artistic directorly note to you, Louis.
No, and I totally agree with you, because obviously, you know, yes, we told the audience that was going to happen, but if we didn't play it that, I mean, if we played it straight, it would be wonderful, because the end would come as such a surprise.
Right.
And you know, I mean, and especially since, you know, I mean, we could have like Courtney as Margot play it various different ways, because again, she's really, she's not real. She's the fig. This is how Anne is imagining her. So we could play with that a lot.
That's a very interesting aspect of the play's theatricality
Exactly.
that we would want, that
I mean, yeah,
you guys could have a lot of fun with.
Yeah. I mean, Courtney could be like an Eve Arden type of character.
Or Tallulah Bankhead.
Ooh, love her.
And just sort of fun in the way that nobody ever mentions death, darling.
Let's not talk about dying.
Yes, the polite neighbors, even your polite best friend wouldn't come in and say, "You look like shit." Oh, darling,
I look like shit.
You're too rich, you're too thin. You know, like,
Yeah, you do look like shit. Let's move on. Yeah,
how much could we play with the fact that we're not even going to mention it?
And
Right.
that line that what you were saying, Kathleen, about how much can she take? She says, "Yeah, you actually do look like shit."
Yeah.
There could be a bit of a jab back in that, right? In line with your note, Kathleen. Well, listen, you guys, thank you all so much. That was such a wonderful experience. Great acting, great directing, great playwriting, all on one little television screen.
Yeah.
On our Monday night TV series. Anyway, wonderful. Thank you all so much. And thank you all of you at home. We had over 400 people sign up for this show tonight. The Zoomlets are just really popular, and we hope you'll all tell your friends. And those of you who made a donation when you got your free ticket, we're very grateful for that, because we are paying everyone involved in the Zoomlets. And we're grateful that we can do that, because it's a tough time for artists to make a living in the theater, unless, of course, many other people are having a hard time making a living as well. And those of you who didn't get a chance to donate, there will be a thank you email going out where you'll get yet another opportunity to support the Zoomlet series. It's just a few notes. This coming Thursday, you know, Susie's been running out of great actors to interview, so we thought we'd give her a chance to interview sort of an up-and-coming artistic director. He's kind of a mid-career artistic director who's had some experience and maybe is about to come into his own as a leader. And she's going to be interviewing me, actually. We're good. That'll be fun. I think I'll be on the spit for whatever it is that my life and business partner, co-founder wants to ask me. That will be at the Fireside Cocktails, and we'll also be finding out what my favorite cocktail would be. And then next Monday, we're going to do a really wonderful play. We had it announced earlier, and then we had to take it back. We're going to be doing a play called The Logic by Will Arbery. And Will Arbery just had the huge hit on Broadway with the Heroes of Off-Broadway, with Heroes of the Fourth Turning, which just galvanized New York. Won a bunch of awards, incredible play. And like many of these little short plays, these are plays that playwrights have been trying out lots of times in their younger years. And so we get to see a master craftsman in a much earlier work. So I think that's going to be really exciting. And that play is going to be directed by Michael Torres, who many of you may remember from Born Yesterday, where he played the orange hair lookalike. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us for our Zoomlet, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Thank you.